4 for me is remembering what matters. I'd like to start off with a quote from, it's from John Paul Sartre, but it's also quoted in Hands Held High by Linkin Park. The quote is, "When the rich wage war, it's the poor who die." Literally, yeah, it's about war, but the more important thing is about the fact that the actions you take can have a wide and sometimes devastating effect on many different people. There's also, and yeah, for physics majors, I know this is not completely Newton's third law of motion, but for every action, there is a reaction. And remember that a pebble that's dropped in a pond is going to create ripples. And now I'm done with the analogies. I will bore you no longer. Things in life that are worth spending time. Hold on. Okay, there are things in life that are worth spending emotional energy on. And I like to live my life trying to remember exactly what those things are, and keeping that in mind at all times. Is it worth being angry or upset by something that happened? Or is being angry now just going to damage things down the road? Is it worth getting annoyed or mad by something my siblings do? Or am I just going to forget that it even happened by the time I wake up the next morning? This is not to say I never get annoyed or mad at them, because as anybody with a sibling knows, that's impossible. But what matters is remembering the important things. And remembering that once it's all said and done, you should still love your siblings. And not that you should, but that you do. And that's the important thing. And I try to remember as soon as I can, sometimes in the middle of the argument, but more often than not, he's good at getting me to go. And I don't remember until after the argument is over, but I'm able to calm myself down, and by usually within 15-20 minutes, I'm fine. And really, the best way to sum that up is thank you for the Lion King, but Hakuna Matata is a great way of putting it. And it's, you know, the translation supposedly is you've got to put your past behind you. And I cannot, no matter how hard I try, I cannot change things that have already happened. Once it's over, once it's done with, the only thing I can do is learn from it and then keep on moving. When you're walking through the forest, you have to keep your eyes forward. You keep looking back at all the things you've done, you're going to run into a tree. You've got to keep your eyes on where you're going. You're never going to get there if you keep looking back. In summary, there are things that matter and there are things that don't. Don't waste your time on the things that don't, so you can spend more time on the things that do. For example, laughter.
This one's pretty much self-explanatory. The quote, the first quote, "Nobody ever reached the end of their life wishing they'd spent more time at the office." And I think that's pretty obvious. But if you're not spending your time at the office, where are you spending it? And we have choices as to where we can spend our time and energy. And I think it's important that we put it where it's going to make a difference, not only for the people that we're with, but for us. And at least for me, it's important that I put family first. If I have a choice between spending some time working on something at school or coming home and spending some time with my kids, maybe taking my daughter riding or helping my son learn basketball. He still thinks he's going to school me in basketball. But these are more important, how we choose to spend our time. Now, I had a very happy childhood. I have a great family that I grew up with. I'm one of 7 kids, Irish Catholic. That says a lot. But I had a happy childhood, and I think that my family, my kids, have had an equally rewarding childhood. But I'm not naive enough to assume that everybody has had the same experience that I had. So the question then is, how do you define family? Okay, if you're going to put family first, who is your family? Your family are those people who really care about you, those who are there to lift you up when you're down, to help you through a difficult time. This last 9 months, the experience that you've had with Kevin has been difficult, but it would have been a hell of a lot more difficult if it hadn't been for the family and the friends that we have in this area. Diane and I have been members of the Newman community, the Newman Catholic Student Center, some of the members of whom are here this evening. it was absolutely amazing how these people rallied. They called us up. They would bring over meals. There was lots and lots of donations to the hospital where Kevin was staying. We bought a lot of DVDs for the people on the ward there to watch. So this was a situation where it didn't just benefit us, it benefited everybody who was in that hospital ward at the time. It taught me a very valuable lesson about the value of the community in which we live. You know, we are part of a family, of a community of family and friends who were there to support us when we needed it. And hopefully, although I would never wish this experience on anyone else, I know that if I have the opportunity to do the same for a member of this community, I would do so gladly.
Honesty really is the best policy, hands down. If you ever consider lying, it's not worth it. Being honest really does solve a lot of problems, and it may not always be pleasant, but it's going to solve more problems than lying would create. Start by being honest with yourself. Don't ever try to deceive yourself and try to convince yourself that things are different than they actually are. If you be honest with yourself, then you can start figuring out what exactly you want to do. Lies almost never stay hidden for very long, and when they do come out, the consequences are far worse than if you just told the truth to begin with. I rarely regret anything that I've done, but one of the things I really do regret is 4 years ago, I cheated on my girlfriend. And that is the one thing that, if I could take anything back, it would be that. Would we have stayed together? I don't know. Did I deserve to stay with her? Probably not. But looking back on what I did, the beauty of mistakes is that you can learn from them. And I've learned from that one. But I also ask each and every one of you to learn from my mistakes. Don't make my mistake. It's not worth it. And if you do find yourself making that mistake, tell the truth to begin with. The more you put it off, the more the consequences are just going to come crashing down and the more damage it's going to cause. Tell the truth, let justice run its course. As the black man from Harold and Kumar says, the universe tends to unfold as it should. So tell the truth and let it unfold as it should, in the quickest manner possible. Don't prolong not only your own, but other people's sufferings. Just because that is the worst kind of suffering, is the one that drags out. Always remember that lying breaks trust. Trust is a very interesting thing. It can be very strong without having to do much, but once you break it, it can be almost impossible to rebuild. Sometimes it is impossible. Always tell the truth. If you're considering lying, sit there for a minute or two, think about what happens if I lie and get caught, and what happens if I just tell the truth. I can guarantee you, just telling the truth is always going to be the better road to take.